Donc, on va commencer notre webinaire de ce jour sur race et missiologie. Alors, on a décidé finalement j'ai décidé de finalement faire l'introduction en anglais. Donc, voilà, c'est pour ça que I'm going to switch to English now for this short introduction before we listen to Sarah's presentation, the first of our participants. Sarah va faire sa présentation en français, en revanche. C'est ça, Sarah, n'est-ce pas? Ouais, super.
Oui, je l'ai gardé en français, mais si jamais il y a beaucoup d'anglais dans ma présentation, donc ça ne devrait pas être un problème pour les anglophones.
En effet, vu les sources, à mon avis, il y aura en effet beaucoup d'anglais dans votre présentation. Donc, super. Très bien. All right then, so let me start today's event by welcoming you all very warmly to this online conference on race and contemporary missiologies. So we've probably been a tad prescient when we eventually decided to go online, as today is a national strike day in France, which would have probably prevented even the bravest of you all to join us on campus at Le Mans University had we kept the conference on campus. So in spite of not being able to discuss and converse together around a cup of tea or coffee in between papers, I'm certain the presentations of our participants will spark lively discussions on the subjects and areas of their expertise. Speaking of lively discussions, well, since I sent the program of today's conference on the Yale-Edinburgh Research Group on Christian Missions, emails have flooded my inbox, questioning the legitimacy, the scientific validity, the, I quote, preset agenda even of us researchers and scholars embarking on, according to critics, I quote, yet another discussion of race in the field of missions. I strongly invite those critics and our online audience to check the website that is run by my colleague Vincent Vilma, here next to me. Vincent is the head of the Religions, Lineage and Races program, and he and his team of researchers have made this beautiful and very stimulating research blog and website. So you can see on the screen the welcome page of the program. I believe the Religions, Lineages and Races program, within which today's event has been forged, is the very proof of the need to keep on exploring how religions, in the plural and in the longue durée, have seized the notion of race, integrated it into their operating methods or not, and, where missions, missiology, and even world Christianity are concerned, how its tropes and mechanisms might have been addressed, used, or rejected, especially in colonial and post-colonial settings. In previous conferences organized by the ReLRace program, historians, anthropologists, theologians, and sociologists have looked into how religions, since their inceptions, have included tropes such as racial stigma, the notions of election, genealogies, or founding narratives such as that of Ham in Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, or Islam. The program is very rich in terms of the variety of religions, sacred texts, religious movements, and religious practices it explores through a racial lens. I'm going to give you a few examples if this is working. It's not. Okay, no, that's fine. It is giving us, a few examples of the way we can explore through a racial lens and explore new avenues of research that are opening. Yes, all right. Shedding light on hitherto less explored groups and communities. So here are a few examples of the kinds of articles that you can read on the ReLRace website in English and in French, as well as the digital exhibitions that have been made by the team on the human colors, for instance, in sacred texts, for example. So I guess the website, what I want to say is that the website testifies to the new creative ways research on race and religions can be conducted and reframed, encouraging a plurality of perspectives, interdisciplinary dialogue, and cross-examination, despite what some of those critical emails I have received might have stated. So in that regard, I'd like to thank Vincent for giving us the opportunity to use the ReLRace program as a platform to organize not just one, but 2 mission-related conferences in order to look into the ways racial theory and its adjacent concepts and vocabularies might have shaped contemporary missiologies, the sciences and theories of mission, and the way discussions about race relations have affected the training of indigenous staff in the mission field and relations between European clergy and missionary agents and native ones, ever since, for instance, the controversy around the appointment of former slave missionary and linguist Samuel Crowther as Bishop of West Africa in 1864 by the Church Missionary Society. Indeed, today's conference is the first of a diptych on race and missions. And today we're going to be more particularly looking into the ways racialized thought might have shaped some of the theoretical evolutions of missiology and mission planning in the 19th and 20th centuries, at a time when, to quote Brian Stanley, the egalitarian dynamic latent in the ideal of humanity, united by reason, was undermined by the placing of humans squarely in the natural world to be subdivided and ranked according to the same principles of speciation as the animal kingdom. With the growing ascendancy at that time of social Darwinist theories in the Western world, and with the colonial expansion of European powers in various parts of the earth, Christian missions, for example, introduced such questionings in the various events that marked the culmination of Christian missionary enthusiasm. The 1910 World Missionary Conference at Edinburgh, for example, tried to engage with such questions, and Sarah Ashall, our first participant this morning, will explore how John R. Mott, how his writing will perhaps tell us more of his own participation at the 1910 conference, for instance. Stanley explains that race became, and races in the plural, became the primary category that the conference reports employed in their accounts of human diversity when discussing more effective strategies of evangelization. And later on in the second half of the 20th century, to develop theories of cultural plurality and hence of accommodation or indigenization theologies. The theme of precedence, which is at the heart of Elisabeth Bruyère's presentation on living practices in Congo and Burundi, could be another path to be followed in that respect. So the training of indigenous clergy in the mission field, as well as the racial dynamics that existed between indigenous and European clergy, will be at the heart of the second event of our diptych on race and missions, which would be held, in Aix-en-Provence, southern France, at the beginning of June 2023 on the 8th and the 9th. This second conference, entitled Race, Missions and Missionary Field Practices, in collaboration with the Institute of Research on the Arab and Islamic Worlds, the IRIMAM, whose expertise lies in social sciences and humanities. Well, this will also allow us to better grasp the ways Islam, for instance, adjusted to racial thought as well, a theme that will be developed this afternoon by Omar Fassatoui. So I'd really like to thank wholeheartedly our colleagues Noreen Neveu and Ana Laura Turiano, who work at IRIMAM, for their immense help in organizing today's conference as well. Today we will delve into the living practices and the, I quote, reverberations of missions, to take up Heather Sharkey's title on American Presbyterians in the Sudan, Egypt and the US, as well as on the following lines of questioning. So first, how the plastic tool of racial theory was used in the science of missions. Recent studies explore more and more the permeability of the scientific worlds of anthropology and the world of missions at the turn of the 20th century. Missionaries did engage with scientific discourses on race and racial diversity, such as, for instance, the Scottish missionary Joseph Oldham and his Christianity and the Race Problem that was published in 1924. We're going to look into how racialized biblical narratives were integrated into scientific, theoretical missionary work and writing in Christian or Muslim contexts. And eventually, we're going to work on missions and race in colonial and post-colonial fields, looking at how missionary organizations and their agents adapted to the mutations of colonial societies that were becoming independent nations in the second half of the 20th century. will be particularly interested in listening to Myra Ann Hauser on the World Council of Churches program to combat racism, for instance, as well as David Henry Anthony's presentation on the South African YMCA in that respect. I'd like to announce a few changes in today's program, especially the afternoon panel, and remind everyone of the way we will proceed today. So each participant, as you can see, will have 25 minutes to present their papers. We will first listen to Sarah and Elizabeth in our morning session. And after a 2-hour break, not a one hour and a half break as previously planned, we'll start again at 2 p.m. Paris time to listen to Omar at 2 p.m. And we will end not with David Henry Anthony, but with Myra Ann Hauser, has been rescheduled at the very end of the panel. Then. So this means that we're going to have a longer panel this afternoon with 4 participants, starting with Omar. In the afternoon, our American friends will join us because of time differences between our 2 continents. But I wanted to remind you that the conference is streaming live on the YouTube channel of the ReLRace program, and that all papers, presentations are recorded and will be made on the ReLRace program as well if you want to watch them again at a later time. I would like to ask participants in the audience especially to keep their microphones off during the presentations of our participants. And during our discussion times, if you could use the raise your hand function on your Zoom websites, that would be easier for us to see who wants to comment and participate. Today's conference, therefore, is rescheduled to end at around 4:30 instead of the initial 3:45 time that we had set before. So I wish you all a very pleasant online conference. We'll start straight away with Sarah Scholl from the University of Geneva, Switzerland, with a paper on John R. Mott, who worked as a missionary for the World Student Christian Federation, an offspring of the YMCA. So today's conference is opening with the YMCA. It is almost ending with the YMCA, with David Henry Anthony's presentation on the South African YMCA. So this is all very neatly organized by Vincent. Thank you very much. Sarah, just a few words about you. So you come from the University of Geneva, Switzerland, where you are an associate professor in religious history. You work on contemporary religious culture, as well as the history of religious education and secularism. And today you're going to talk about American missionary John R. Mott's travelogues, travel narratives, of the World Student Christian Federation, and offspring of the YMCA, then to explore how those travelogues might have created a new racial map of the world, I believe. So your presentation in French is entitled Typologiser pour évangéliser, la composition du monde selon les récits de voyage du missionnaire John R. Mott. And so the online floor is yours. Thank you very much in advance.